Dope.
You should have seen Nicole with her M4 today. She was
You cut it in and out like a Cylon.
crackers.
You just had sex
I
with a
tried.
toaster.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was telling you guys about Nicole's shooting with her M4 today. She was just on
Believable.
fire.
Nothing greater than a great range day.
You were on fire. You passed me up. Are we still silent? Yeah. I got a neck burn. Ethan.
Oh,
Yeah, she caught
brats.
a little hot. Right?
Oh,
Got
okay,
some hot
Brad.
brass.
This is making me want to step out my
It
front
hurt.
porch and start shooting.
Oh, you're
I can
in
do
the
that.
you're in
I'm
the
gonna
club
stick.
now. I
started swapping mags, and I fell into this voice while I was at the range. I'm all, Sarge, I'm out of bullets. And like everybody on the range was just dying laughing. I'm like, here's another mag right here. It was great.
That's fantastic. Yeah, my wife, when she was on the qual range ready to go to Iraq, they put you in your armor for the first time, and she's blowing rounds out. And she gets up and she's like, I think something stung me. And I reach into her collar and she's got a piece of brass stuck in. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's going to leave a mark. And she's got a permanent scar right on her neck, right with a brass kist.
I think that's going to happen to me. Because it stuck there too. Like it kind of stayed there for it hurt.
And then I just looked at her.
It went down my shirt.
I just looked at her as I was blazing away with my Glock 17, and I said, "Girl, bom, 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 you'll be a woman soon."
You just pretend that it's a hickey, and you'd be done. You're fine.
Yeah. Exactly. I just embraced the suck.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
There was a moment of lack of weapon control. I will say that. Got a little wild with the barrel there for a second.
Someone got us so excited.
So speaking of lack of barrel control, that's what we had today in the DnD game. You guys want to talk about that a little bit?
We're live.
Oh, you didn't know that, JR?
No.
Let's talk about
awkward.
Let's
we
talk
also
about
had a little projectile dysfunction.
Let's talk about. Well, I guess like that also is JR and Siska. Is that what happened, or was there some?
So about that cockatrice.
Was there some maneuvers?
He's awfully silent, JR.
No,
Give us a few details. Tell us about what happened that weekend. You don't have to get raunchy.
Were there sparkles involved? Like
They
glitter?
are just died. You killed him.
Was there one of those massage beds? You got to feed quarters. Did
the
you show
magic
up with a roll?
fingers?
The edible sparkles.
Did you have a wad of quarters?
How about those Cowboys?
Yeah, I thought this hotel wasn't by the hour. What are you talking about?
Oh my God!
What did this ceiling look like? What did the ceiling look like, JR? Okay.
Was it a mirror?
Could you see yourself in the ceiling?
Was there popcorn on the ceiling?
He's gonna explode. He's gonna.
Let me ask this: was she gentle?
You're killing me.
He's like, I gotta work with this woman. Oh my God!
We'll have her on. I bet she wouldn't blush. She don't.
Nah, you Doc. No, you can't. You can't blush at Doc. 9 times out of 10, they're like indestructible resolve.
They're machines.
You never forget your first Doc that sits there when you're coming out of a swamp who goes, all right, man, lift your package. I got to check under there for leeches.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How about that cockatrice?
Yep, yeah. So you guys,
not many leeches in the sandbox, but I'm thinking you're flashing back to Central America.
I don't know what you're talking about. So there
are leeches in Iraq. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, if you
go
in the Tigris, Euphrates.
You hang out in the river, but that's
I was on one of those floating bridges when they overloaded it and it flipped.
Oh,
that was fun.
Why would you do that?
Because the loadmaster was an idiot, but he was Air Force.
We try not to judge. So you guys had to go rescue some rangers, and you get into the like the stage 1 part where all the prisoners are being held. How do you think that went?
How it ended or how
No.
it started?
Yeah, how it started. Go for it.
It started out pretty decently. We actually, well, no, I'm sorry. We had bad. Me and Richardson had bad rolls, and we killed the ceiling. We did good at that.
That ceiling was looking at me really bad.
Yeah.
Actually,
Bad
it went about as good as you could expect it to have gone.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't sound an alarm or get reinforcements or anything, and everybody died. So
I was like, all right. So Nick's setting this hit up, and he makes a sneak roll to get in there, and he's doing the like. Yep, Elvis is all pissed off because he didn't get to chew on any fishmen, and he gets in there and he just like shanks this fish dude, right? And then looks over to the other two, expecting their heads to snap back.
It wasn't my first rodeo.
and we're like, but the Navy SEALs, they make it look so easy in the movies. I wouldn't trade for this shit, man.
I blame the spear gun.
Yeah.
It fired prematurely.
I could have made that shot with my sniper rifle.
Yep, because you had a scope and a ballistic computer. Everything else is just eyeballs.
I've been wondering about modding that thing with some at least some primitive optics. Just
Well, why don't you? You could always, once you get your forge back, you could always, create the super spear gun and put like real optics on it.
I've been thinking about that.
Put an ACOG on a spear gun. That'll be out.
Right. So you guys get down below after you finish shanking the guards, and you meet the ranger crew for the first time. What'd you guys think of those guys?
I thought they were cool. Like I liked that they had different vibes going on. The Shadow, the first sergeant, like definitely embodied, get over your situation and maximize calories. So he's my kind of dude.
I love the first sergeant.
I would definitely eat my enemies. I have no problem with it.
So you're saying he was a Savage Marine and a Ranger?
Yeah. Or it was just Tuesday.
Or it's Tuesday.
Yep, Tuesday is a shark's favorite day.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is when you're hungry, you're hungry. That's don't judge.
Yep. What do you think of the captain all banged up? What do you think happened to him that they had to like super restrain him?
Well, I'm guessing the ruin has revealed him in some way. And so, because everybody else they restrained sort of, had that like the Shadow and stuff. So I'm guessing there's something with him.
Yeah, and then you guys met him, and he was banged up bad, like beaten. One of his arms was dislocated. So yeah, he was roughed up. What did you think about when you guys had to encounter him and you talked to him for the first time, and the first thing he says is, "No, help my guys."
Good peeps.
I still was suspicious. I thought for sure he was a plant.
That's what it does.
Now, what is interesting though is that I think part of the conversation was
like
that there was slavery going on, or people being sold. I mean, the only reason that these creatures from the Black Lagoon would have kept them alive is if there was profit, or they were eating them, one or the other. There's probably more to be had around here.
Go ahead, Nick.
I think he was cutting out.
I gotcha. Yeah, he must be going through that weird section of town again. So when you guys started stacking up and stuff like that, did you have any problem handing over weapons to the Rangers and saying, yeah, take the lead, take the point?
I just gave up the spear gun. So it's like, no, I'll keep in mind.
So, can we talk about the gear that everyone was making fun of me for? First off, I'm just tracking for the party. Most of what we have is on the pirate freaking ship, so we can sell it and get better gear. Like, I don't have all that on me. Okay,
I think I broke.
that's
I
what we're
broke my
saying.
first.
There you go.
That's what happens. He talks out of line to me, and Walt kicks him off the podcast.
You know who has the power around here?
Again.
Yep.
I just couldn't give up my spear gun, knowing that we were going into a even more hostile situation. And if it'd been my carbine or something, if I'd still had a proper.
You're next, Rothman.
That'd been one thing. But I was going to feel naked without it.
So you got to ask yourself this question, Sparky: would Patton give up his pistols? No, he wouldn't. Would he? You keep your motherfucking guns.
Yeah, that's exactly what went through my mind. I'm like, and that's not exactly family friendly, but
that seems like Walt trying to trick us into getting rid of all of our best gear.
I felt that way when they asked for the rifle in the first place and offered the spear gun. I'm like, Walt's trying to trick me. Oh well, what the hell?
Square pants.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
So Walt, is the Dungeon Master going to be the title? Range Master, RM for the game? What's the
Rune Master?
Rune Master, maybe.
I was going to leave it to the Kickstarter backers to decide that.
I like Range Master.
In the book, it would be an easy thing to find and replace, but just as a place setter for it, I put the word controller. Because usually, like when you were dealing with guys like TACP or, you were dealing with kind of Overwatch units that were tracking you. A lot of times, those guys would be referred to as a controller. Captain Kilgosha is saying Walt is being very nice as a DM. No one's dead yet. I don't know. JR failed that one thing and left him with 3 hit points. He got really lucky on that one.
Yeah, if he hadn't went for the hardwood, he'd be.
Well, I just knew we didn't have a lot that could touch the underwater of those people. So it's just like I've got 1 vial left of that tree potion. If there was ever a time to do it to save these rangers.
Yeah. So you guys.
I was fully expecting that tree guy to start drowning.
Well, I was gambling that the stuff would stay that made us able to breathe underwater.
But you have to take it off.
The thing that enables you to breathe underwater is this torque that you guys are wearing around your neck.
Yeah.
Right. But you had to take that off because otherwise the size that you grow. Right. So to just give you an example. Right. So here's the Saugen right there. And here's what you grew to the size of, but like that was you as that was your original model right there.
No longer a 15-inch neck there,
right? So, but luckily, as you know, as Naylin is saying, the space pineapple under the sea, because when you drink that potion,
square pants.
you're more plant than human beings, so you're not really requiring like regular oxygen to breathe. You kind of the potion, the magic is kind of working around it and using the environmental things of like plants and stuff like that through the potion to keep you alive and underwater. Nick Chaos Actual, oh my god, it's the real guy.
It's me.
And he's gone.
He's gone. I'll cut down on my feed while I get in here to the garage.
Gotcha. Did you make it back okay? The gunshots missed you?
They missed us. I think it would have gotten out of hand later, but it was just kind of weird because we went into this one mall parking lot just to have dinner, and that was like at 6:00, and then we just started rambling and talking a bunch, and then you come out and it's just freaking crazy. So it was so the bass music in those cars was so loud you could hear it basically vibrating through your body. It was crazy.
Certain fillings were starting to shake and all that jazz.
Yeah, it just seemed like a situation that would probably get bad in a couple hours.
So the thing is, I was young long ago that I might have done that, but I never did. So I never understood the whole base thing. Yeah. So
Sounds like the perfect amount of base.
So Nick, we were just talking about you guys doing the assault on the Ranger slave trade down below, and Mike was just saying that there had to be something more going on that you guys were factoring in because they wouldn't keep the Rangers alive this long unless there was like some sort of profit or they were eating them.
We could be eating them, right?
So, but you know that at least half a company made it down here, and there was only 30 left when you guys showed up.
I would say they
And then
could
the
be eating them.
cockatrice killed a few.
My spirit
Well, no,
gun
no.
killed more.
No, I'm talking like half a company of Rangers started at this place, and now there was like 20 or 30 left. Right, so the Sahaugen was either selling them or eating them.
yeah, we didn't see any human steaks anywhere. So who knows?
No, all we were seeing was the food that you were eating and taunting JR with.
I did threaten some fried chicken, and I did manage to make that.
So, Nick, you immediately keyed in on the foot flare. Can you talk about, like, did you just draw into him because you were like, oh, yep, that's the big bad, we got to take him out?
Yeah, I mean, do you guys read me good? Is my connection good?
Yep,
Yeah.
you're straight.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, he just, like, obviously one of these things is not like the other, Oh, and you said he was kind of above them all, kind of talking. So that definitely put him in some kind of leadership position. And because I come from the Cold War, I'm immediately trained, doctrinally to always wipe out the leader.
Cut off the head, the body will die.
Yeah, well, you always go for the Russian tank with the antenna. That was the basis of all training. Kill whoever's got an antenna, kill that guy first.
Right on.
Yeah.
Did you have to mess with anything like a Dragon missile launcher or anything like that, where you were going foot against tread?
No, they felt that I was too good for high explosives.
That's one of putting
It's
it.
like how I tell everybody about my acting career. Like they actually never cast me in anything because I was too good. That's why.
Is that why you still had the 2 explosive bricks? Why the character had those 2 explosives?
Yeah, I have no idea how to apply these. I had some loose plan that, like, hey, I'll use these as depth charges if I have to, or I'll wave them around and talk threateningly, which is, like, if anybody hasn't figured out my standard MO, it's just bullshitting my way through things.
When in doubt, baffle with bullshit.
Yep, you got it.
Hey, are you a SAG-AFTRA guy?
I'm AFTRA, yes, and then it used to just be AFTRA, and SAG used to be the premium union, and it was so hard to get into SAG, but I got into AFTRA because I did soap operas, and then I got away from acting and I went to New York, and then I went back in, and suddenly AFTRA had become the powerhouse union, and I'm like, sweet, I'm on the winning side, and they're like, no, your dues are in arrear, and I'm all like, ah.
Freaking dues.
Yeah, I hate unions.
Oh my god. I know I'm a little late. I hope you won't hold it against me. But where'd it go? There we go.
That's what Siska told JR last week. I hope you won't hold it
against me. So we had Mei Lin subscribe for 3 months at Tier 1 16 minutes ago. That is super awesome. I really have to check.
Nice.
I really have to check the feed a little more often than I do.
You're only one man.
Yes, but I should be so much more.
You're a Superman.
Naylin is the best because she wants the Ankylor of 12 story.
It's true.
Who doesn't?
And she's the one who came up with the no place, or
oh my god, that was so funny.
That.
Yeah, it's hilarious because that no space thing has been a joke amongst our group, me, Sanokin, and a few others. and it was a joke with them before I knew them, and now it's infiltrated its way into Forgotten Ruin and Galaxy's Edge community, and it's hilarious.
It's funny as hell.
We're a bad influence, apparently.
But yeah, you guys managed to start throwing a beat down. One of the first things that happened though was Jesse's character got tangled up with a dude early on, and was like having like a vicious like knife slash battle with the dude. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jesse?
Yeah, and my stellar rolls continued into that. And
You were awesome today.
yeah, when I finally did hit, I still rolled a 1, and so it was a knockdown, drag out fight, pinpricks.
We got really lucky because that could have gone so bad so many ways, but somehow we managed to squeak by.
And Crowley continued his epic tradition of shooting me, stabbing me, killing me somehow. He's hit me every session he's been in.
and that's how he continued that tradition when he you guys got cursed by the foot flare, which that has to be a thing now. Foot flare curses a bunch of you, and now you can't see, so you're -4 on all your rolls. So Crowley grabs the spear gun from Sparky and rolled a 20. And can you guys talk about like what you thought of when that weapon went off like that?
My first reaction was, I'll never forgive him for this. That was cool, though. That was really good.
I thought for sure I was going to die. I was saying in the chat, like, guess I'm drawing a new character because I rolled and I'm like, it's a 1. So I rolled again, I got a 4. And then I rolled again and I got a 1. And I'm like, there's no way I can't even cheat right.
Honestly, I mean, I made my statement from that. I thought I'm going to die too. We're all going to take at least half damage or something. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, so at least you know now that spear gun on a 20 has a very devastating effect.
So definitely use it point blank range.
Be the tip of the spear. Be the tip of the spear. Like don't fire from behind your friends. Be in front of them.
That's what she said last weekend.
Just a tip.
Oh my god.
No, don't fire from behind.
Oh my god.
I got nothing. But yeah, being blinded was a great turn of events, a fun one because I really enjoyed murdering the seaweed. That was, I don't know. I knew I wasn't going to hit anything probably, but you know what? I'm like, what the hell? This is like balanced chaos instead of, the Jim Ward model where I can see the chaos going to sow this. It'll be funny and crazy, but it probably won't get anybody killed except maybe me. So I can live with that.
But yeah, you guys. One of the big things that really upturned everything was Nick has this magical set of dice, and the dice has peculiar effects when you roll them together with certain other dice. Nick, did you want to talk about what led you to remember that you had those things like pocketed up, and that now would be a good time to get stupid?
I always save those, but I think like when we were playing with Jim Ward, there were times like when I would turn stuff to stone with fever and things like that. I could sense he was kind of mad about that, or like I was overusing it or abusing it, but I just wanted to wail on all his secret stuff. So remember that we would I'm like, I turned the Medusa to stone. I turned the giant to stone. So I had that. So I didn't want to abuse these dice because they're kind of fun and random and they are kind of dangerous. So I thought, obviously we're outnumbered here. We needed diversion. So, I kind of figured hey, maybe it'll give us like a C thing, or something. And I kind of also at the same time think well, maybe it'll give you something, but that thing will drown immediately. But being that I'm an utter psychopath, I was like, well, just because it's dead doesn't mean I can't use it.
That's one of those things that's still deadly after it's dead.
And it was funny too because like you were like, yeah, I grab the spear line and start whipping it around like a flail.
What? The,
So that was pretty awesome.
yeah, that was awesome and random.
So what was the story with that tentacle thing? It wasn't. Was it like, like some like priest of the Wagon, or what was it?
You don't know. You don't know. You didn't stay around to find out. You didn't take any Haugen prisoners.
I looted their corpses.
Well, yeah. I mean, just what you found was spears and knives and stuff like that. So stuff that soldiers and guards would carry. But you still had that whole city that was not really a city. It was more like a village. You could have gone in there, and it's not like you would have found much resistance after Crowley basically touched off a nuclear weapon underwater. And then you guys wrecked that village. So you could have gone in there. But yeah, we
could have went for war candy.
Oh my God, they will never look at a spear gun the same way again.
Yeah.
But you guys could have gone in and taken like a prisoner or grabbed one of the guards as a prisoner, because I'm sure if you reloaded the spear gun and be like, "You next," be like, "No, I'm blah, 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 going with you." Blah 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 blah. So.
Can we talk about how hilarious that was when he was gargling the water?
Oh my God!
I thought I was going to choke on my water.
Yeah, he choked me a few times today. Wait, that was of my drink.
You had to say that out loud, didn't you? Nope. So much so that he left.
I didn't mean it that way. Seriously.
Right. But yeah, so you guys, you don't know what that thing was. You definitely never seen it before. And it did kind of remind you of a certain Disney villain.
Yeah.
But you hadn't seen him before. Definitely hadn't seen him before, and he had some like he was slinging like curses and throwing things like ink clouds and stuff like that. But like it was weird because if you saved, you couldn't see what he was like. You couldn't see what he was doing. All you could see was like JR like doing this. Sparky cutting plants. So
I'm still kind of proud of that epic moment of stupidity.
But yeah, so he definitely had some mystical abilities because he was morphing all kinds of stuff. When he raised his hand and his an eye formed in it, that's when people started having problems seeing. He had that big lash he was going to go after Nick with.
But Nick would have liked it. We know that.
I am kind of curious what the story is on our little ranger shadow guy. If he's undead or he's a drow, or what is he?
Well, you didn't.
Drow. Okay.
Yeah, you didn't see. You didn't have like pointy ears or anything. He looked like a man.
Yeah.
The thing that was the most weird was the crying tattoos.
That was like a sorcerer or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, so he had those tattoos that came off his face and then ran down his the sides of his neck, but then his like entire arms were covered all the way to the knuckles.
Are those runes similar to the runes that we saw up top from the guy who had healed and did other interesting things?
No, they were very different. Almost if you had to compare the two, you'd probably think it was two separate languages.
Okay.
But you have yet to encounter someplace other than Saravolta, which is the dwarven area on the mainland, where tattoos are used extensively.
Now, were these really tattoos? Because it sounded like that they kind of morphed and moved around.
They
and
moved.
Did things.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
moving and stuff like that. So it's really hard to tell what they were because there was a lot of play, and like some of his abilities were kind of strange to you. Like, he could alter his appearance. He could merge and meld into shadows. So in actuality, this is straight out of. I got too many things working on this one system, so I can't look it up right now. But I took this out of a Dragon magazine. So this has a background in D&D.
Ooh.
So
Let me do my homework.
You got to read all the Dragon magazines and see what.
Yeah,
We got you covered there.
There's only like 200, right?
Depending on how far you go, if you go through if you go up to the second edition era, it goes to like 234. And if you go all the way through fourth edition, when it kind of ended as a paper magazine, that was up in the 400s. But at that point, like all the 1E guys who were kind of addicted to Dragon magazine and didn't want to stop buying them were mostly buying them for like things they could convert and then the art. Because at the time, Wayne Reynolds was doing all the art, and that dungeon punk style is, really fun. So
Yeah.
but yeah, did you have a subscription, Nick, to Dragon?
No. I just, we would buy it at the game store when it came in. And, it was pretty cool. I loved the Dragon magazine.
Did you also used to get Dungeon?
No, like Dungeon was weirder. You know what I mean? Like it was like Dungeon had a lot of other systems. It wasn't just D&D, right?
No, Dungeon was instead of like the D&D like articles and stuff like that you'd find in Dragon. Every magazine, every Dungeon magazine was a 3-pack of adventures.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I either bought Dragon magazine or I bought Starfleet Battles. Like they had like a magazine that was like called Annex or something like that.
Right on.
Because those were my two jams. That was all I could afford. And like we photocopied like everything. Like we totally like photocopied the player's handbook, the monster manual, all that kind of stuff.
Oh wow. So like one guy would buy them, and then you'd run them to the library and photocopy them, or take the library copy.
You'd go to you like, hey, can I borrow your player's handbook? And then you would go to school and use the school copier, and like you had to pay like 10 cents, and you just sit there and copy like what was it, like 220 pages for lunch.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Did you actually get to eat anything?
Didn't matter. I had a player's handbook.
Did you do like a custom cover, or did you put it in a Trapper Keeper?
I always like I was always a person like of grand ideas, like when we got handed the state project, like on the day that I got like Wisconsin, I was like, I'm gonna build like a fully electrical map of the state, and I'm gonna or we like in California we had like the California mission. I'm like, I'm gonna build this awesome mission. I'm gonna do all these things, and then like invariably when that project was due in 6 months, I would be like sitting on the bus, and they'd be like, "Where's your mission project?" And I'm like, "Oh, is that today?" And like, you have like, do you have any like glue or glitter I could borrow real quick? So I know I would always have those plans. Like, I'm going to make the coolest dungeon cover, but really, what would happen is that I would get one of those big, high-powered paper clips, or I would staple it, and then I'd just shove my player's handbook down on my photocopied player's handbook down on my backpack. And then like invariably pages would get crinkled or lost, and like that would go with me for like a year, and it just
they don't make Trapper Keepers anymore. I was very devastated. I was like, why? Those were awesome.
Do you remember the football pencils that you could get?
Dallas was the hardest one to get.
Yeah, and then you would smack the pencils, and that would be the game. Like you'd flick them. Like one person would have to hold it in 2 hands, and then the other person would crank on it and try to break it, and that's the team that won. You had your own little Super Bowl every day. You just went through pack. That's why I had no money for Players' Handbooks. I was buying pencils. You also have to remember, like, if you had any money in the 80s, it went to upright video games.
Yeah. Oh
Yes.
my God.
Yeah.
Galaga.
Super McCoys.
Galaga. Did you have the? Did you like get the original Nintendo?
No. Like, I mean, like, that's after my time. Like, I was in the military by the time console games came out.
Yeah,
Like,
me
mine
too.
was like you go to Till and you show the old guy your report card and you get 10 free tokens. You know?
Oh,
then,
you were going to the arcade.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, or 7-Eleven had games, and like you'd
Right
be
on.
in there like at 11:30 at night, like just like bathroom crank on one of those cola Slurpees, you know, playing Rolling Thunder or something like that. You know, yeah.
Spy Hunter. That was always a favorite.
Spy Hunter was great because it had the Peter Gunn theme, and I was actually good at that game. The truth is, like, I was terrible at video games, but like I was like a junkie gambler. I just get all the money that I was like. But my best friend was like great at games, so I could just stand there and watch him for hours.
That's good. Did he like attract a crowd?
No, like, I mean, there's no crowds. I mean, there's just hookers at
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven, 11:30 at night. Just hookers and little boys playing video games.
Oh my God. I mean,
Such
And
a
then
nice
we would
thing.
then we would play until 2:30 in the morning, and then our friend who was the DM, who was 10 years older than us and had graduated from college with a degree in philosophy, he would then open the donut shop that he worked at and start cooking donuts. And then we would wait in there till 4 o'clock, and we got the first hot donut and milk, and you know, like, you're pretty successful after video games until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then donuts and coffee.
it sounds like this early development informed a lot of your later writing.
It explains why
too.
it explains why I ended up in the Army. Because here's the thing, I got into the Maritime Academy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I was really horrible at math, which apparently you need for ships. I was going to go into the Navy. I was going to do all that kind of stuff, and I was going to fly. And I failed my last math class for my senior year because of the study program that I just outlined for you. And my principal hated my guts so much that he personally called he brought me in and he's like, "Hey, I want to call the Maritime Academy and tell them you failed right in front of you." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool."
Oh.
Yeah, he just basically got my maritime application sunk right there. And
That's brutal.
and then I was like, well, I guess I'll go to community college. And then later at community college, I was like, well, the Army says that I could be all I could be, so I will go do that.
Oh God. That's
Sadly,
crazy.
nowadays they don't say that anymore. They say something very different.
It was be all you could be, then it was Army of One, and now it's
I have two moms.
Yeah.
diversity. And please don't attack us, Russia. We'll be good boys.
I've been fighting America my entire life. Please let me defend you. You're like, oh, okay, great. the new Army ads are all, you're all bigots. You know, like, oh, okay, that's great. But like, ultimately, it was the best thing ever because I would have been horrible in the Navy. I would have been terrible, and I'm bad at math. Why was I going to the Maritime Academy if I'm bad at math? I don't know.
You eventually became a pilot, though.
I did, but you use a practical kind of math as a pilot. You just use like basic algebra and a little bit of calculus, but it's all monkey trick math. It's not like you theoretically understand it. You just know how to do time, speed, and distance. But it's not real math like that Rothman does.
Easy angles.
Yeah, that's nothing. And the truth is I just faked my way through that too. They're like, you should really learn how to do center of gravity because you can kill yourself. And I'm all, maybe. I just won't take a lot of other people with me when I fly.
I'll fly with that, man.
Oh my God. Suddenly Rock Powers makes a little more sense.
Suddenly Chaos Actual makes more sense.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I am a reckless person.
Well, not as in D&D. You're a little more calculating because you're playing off your character's charisma that you can manipulate events rather than maul your way through them.
We were
Yeah.
just talking
Well,
about that. Whether go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Jer.
Oh, I said Sparky and I were talking about that the other day. Whether Nick Hulk is in relation to like his Substack and
Oh.
stuff, whether he was the ultimate grifter con man or he was a true believer. Like we were joking about whether he was our cult leader or he really believed it. He plays that way too. You never know if he's a true.
Yeah.
If Rock
I don't
Howard is a
care.
true believer.
I don't care. I'm
Or-
following with him now.
Yeah, we were just joking about it.
It'll
Like,
be a fun ride.
is he a cult leader or a true believer?
I have my
is
cult
this
pen.
is this option available? I'm a grifter who fell for his own con.
I like that.
Because, well, here's the truth. I think that's what happened to Trump. I think Trump was in. I think Trump was in it for the grift. I think that he was like. I have a big long theory about that. We'll be coming to a Substack later this week.
Yeah, I want to hear
But
that one.
what I think happened is that Trump, like, one, was more surprised than anybody that he won. And then two, like when Americans came, like, because that was an emotional moment for like half the country. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're our hope. You know, like, you're America. He's like, yes, I love America. I think he fell for his own con. I think he, like, and like, there's been movies and TV shows that have done this, but I think he, like, when people believed in him is when he began to believe in himself. I think he, like, if the left would not have gone so nuts on him, I think he would have been a moderate to left Democrat president.
I agree.
don't think he would have been, yeah. But when the left polarized him and drove him away, and then the right came to him and said, "You're one of us, and we love you. Thank you, Mr. President." That, I think, hit him in the ego, which is his weak point, and then he fell for the con, and he became great. And that's why the universe is a completely weird place.
No, and Trump's the kind of person, if you attack him, he attacks back, and the media was all over his ass, and that was immediately gonna get a reaction from him regardless of anything else. So
yeah, no, but I'm a true believer. I'm totally nuts. But I like the idea of a grifter who falls for his own con. I think that's fun.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I'll probably use that for something. But no,
Yeah,
I'm the real deal. I'm probably gonna get you. Keep listening, and you're gonna get gulagged. And I'll be right there with you. You won't.
You've already started coming for Walt.
Yeah,
hey, it's that time, man.
We'll be playing D&D across the cells. The dice will be made from stale bread.
Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of attention on veterans for the next 4 years. You're going to be asked to be on a lot of lists, and you're going to get because the truth of it is, I was talking to a guy who does security and financial planning at extreme levels for the rich, and I said, what's the biggest threat as far as the FBI is considered American? He's like, it's veterans. They're the biggest threat. They're the ones they're the most worried about, and they should be worried. But veterans are going to get a lot of attention for the next 4 to 8 years. That's just a fact. It has nothing to do with me or Facebook or anything. It's just these are in society. These are the people that know how to actually destroy your society. My personal plan in life, what I would do is become their friend. And actually try to do good things for veterans, like give them opportunities and special advantages and privileges and make them happy citizens, instead of like, hey, let's treat them all like enemies. And that way, when they get mad, we'll be right to have done it. It's like, why don't you make friends out of them?
Well, that's the thing that's bass backwards to me is, of all the elements or components of our country and society, the one place that you can imagine that was probably the most diverse and the most, racially blind, blind about anything other than the job was the military. And they're making it such that that's not cool anymore. And
that's the thing too, because like day one, right? That was the first thing they sat you down, and like anybody who said that, oh,
You're
it's
all
all
equally
white
worthless.
supremacy. Yeah, they were like, oh, you're all equally worthless, blah blah blah. But the dudes, like, I know that my guys. So we had a guy who was a person of color, looks like he could bench press a Buick. He was like the father figure drill sergeant. Excuse me, he was the authoritarian, right? And then you had like the monster. Right. And the monster was this skinny dude. Right. And I'll never forget him. Drill Sergeant Dudley. Right. He was a half black dude that smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and ran like a gazelle. The only reason you pictured this dude smoking cigarettes was so that he could constantly have smoke coming out of his teeth like something out of your nightmares. Right. And then you had the father figure. And that guy was Drill Sergeant Cordero, and he was a Mexican dude, and he was like, you want to talk about people who were like the epitome of professionalism, like when you got right down to it. But they said in the beginning, like, look, we don't care white, red, brown, black. We don't care what your predilections are behind closed doors or whether you're a monster in an open field. He's like, in this house, we're family. And he goes, and the only color we bleed is army green, Absolutely. And like they beat that into you. And it's like to have somebody turn around and be like, there's a white supremacy problem in the army. It's like mother trucker, you're not paying attention.
Right.
If you talk to the old E6s and E5s in 89 and 90, what they told you is that the military did have a racism problem in the 70s. Like, it was really bad. And then they said, but we made a conscious effort to get rid of that. And it really, there are people just going to dislike each other. That has nothing to do with color. People are assholes. It's called Cole's Law of Mutual Asshole Attraction. And the law is stated this way. Any 2 assholes in a given environment will find each other. That's a law. It's like gravity, right? That's a law, right, Robin? Gravity's a law.
Oh,
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So Cole's Law of Mutual Asshole. But here's the truth: there is no racism right now, but they need for there to be racism, so that we all fight and we don't pay attention to the establishment, which is screwing us.
No, and that's the thing that's the most disappointing. SecDef and stuff like that is pulling this kind of crap. Yeah, I'm like, and this is a guy who, theoretically was military. Yeah,
he was diversity hired in the military. He's the kind of guy that like always bitch about every. You can just tell he's the kind of guy that bitched his way to the top, and said that there was racism wherever he went. And it's just like, like if you want bad, you'll always find bad, But some people are just hardwired like that. But no, I never met any racists in the army, and everybody was cool. But there just needs to be racism now, because how else are we going to all fight and not pay attention to the fact that Zuckerberg is absolutely screwing all of us? I don't know. But anyways, DnD. There's no
not to get political.
There's just dead orcs and good adventurers.
And
speaking people too.
He said, "Don't you start."
And they're swinging the cockatrice around like you just don't care.
Oh my God, there were so many jokes. My inbox was like bleeding from people cramming jokes into like face space, and I'm like. Do you guys have nothing better to do than to assault me with jokes while I'm trying to run this stream?
My tongue was bleeding from all the jokes I could have made. I'm like, I think we're more friendly than this. Maybe not.
See, we should put it behind a paywall. You should say, hey, if you want the cockatrice jokes.
Forgotten Ruin Red Band.
Right?
Yeah. Forgotten Ruin After Dark. Has anyone read Forgotten Ruin 3 yet? It just came out a few hours ago.
I'm waiting on the audio for 2.
I have it 3 chapters in.
It's on here.
What do you think of it?
I'm liking it. And I like the Tanners enjoying a benefit of being undead in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
the question is, what kind of? Go ahead. Yes.
No, go ahead.
No, you were going to praise me. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, totally. I chose. I'm kind of torn between reading it the way I should and
Yeah.
skipping to the end for the Book of Skelos part because I'm running a campaign. Like, okay, I need this information yesterday for a little more insight on world building. So
Read faster.
Read faster. Nobody cares.
I would say you should read it and enjoy it because Walt hasn't even read the Book of Skelos part because I only gave him up to the end, and there wasn't time to jam him with the Book of Skelos. So now Walt's got to read the Book of Skelos. But,
Don't you threaten me with a good time.
But I think there's a lot of material in the main story because like this one, and Walt could back me up or correct me here, but like there was a lot of Vandahar in this one, and Vandahar is all lore and info dump. Like you get a lot from Vandahar basically.
And one of the the big thing that I really liked about this book is the fact that we got a lot of deep character moments that weren't like, like somebody trying to cram in something so you care about this dude when he dies. It was like, these were guys who have been around since the first book, and there were deep character moments, but like even some of the bad guys, like there were some character moments in there. There's a scene in the middle of the third book when Talker and crew is doing like, getting their Ranger Scout on, and they have to interact with some people, and like there's a scene in there that's just freak. And I've said it this way a couple of times now. It's just haunting. And like, I thought about that scene for a couple of days. I was just like, oh my God, that's heart wrenching, and there's a couple of scenes like that in the book, and you're just like, there are some really, really good character moments that when the action comes along, you're like, oh, hell yeah. Yeah, these guys have been like hurt bad. It's time to get some like Hurt Locker going the other way. So yeah, I really enjoyed the book. So I'm looking forward to the Book of Skelos, which I'm going to read tomorrow. So
Nice.
that is going to be my reward to myself.
Yeah, and I just say the qualifiers. The Book of Skelos is really weird. Like your mileage may vary on that one. I'm fully expecting people to say like, hey, pass on this. And just give us more Ranger stuff, and I will totally oblige with that. And then for the people that like the Book of Skelos, what I envision us doing is putting that over on Vela, which is the new Amazon reading service, and just releasing the chapters there, so that people who want to do the lore and the background, and kind of get into the origin story of the ruin, they can be there, and then we don't have to bother the people. But you never can tell. People, I think, because it is fantasy. The fine line, because I read a comment the other day from someone, they're like, I'd love to read a fantasy book that isn't 3 hours worth of lore to get to the main story. And fantasy people do that because so much of their writing is world building. And like, I'm strongly convinced that when fantasy writers sit down, they do all this world building and they don't know where to get their story started. But because of the way that I do things, which is improv and explore and expand and like just keep pulling on the thread and keep taking it. Like I'll do it with Nicole sometimes. Like she'll be like, she'll mention something and I'll just paint her the darkest portrait of like that person. Like, and she'll be like, man, you're really twisted. And I'm like, no, that's what you do with improv. You just keep mining it and mining it and mining it. And then that's how you build the world. Like, whereas I think most writers, I'm not saying, I think obviously, Brandon Sanderson's probably one of the biggest heavy hitters ever. But they spend a lot, like Tolkien too. Tolkien just told you a story because he built an entire world. That's all he did. But I prefer to create the world as you go. So that's that Book of Skelos story it's a very strange tale. It's like if the CIA met a cyber future medical thriller with post-apocalyptia. That's the origin story for whatever it's worth. It's weird.
Yeah, but the idea that you as the writer are kind of creating some of this stuff on the fly may or may not be invisible to the reader. They're just appreciating it for not having to slog through lots of lore to get to what it is, and the world gets built around them. So, which is
Yeah.
cool because it's kind of fantasy light in as much as you don't have to slog through the typical 1,200 page tome to get a part of a story.
Well, I think that's there's a part of me that like if you sit down and you write binders and binders of fantasy background, and now it's time to start your story. Where do you start, and where do you discover? Because you know everything, and so like like when you're like there were I was telling Nicole like I was really enjoying writing 3 because things happened that I didn't expect to happen, and so like I get to read it too. I know the beginning and the end, and but then you go like the one, let's call it the Medusa moment that Walt's talking about. Like, I never thought that character would have that to say, and I never. But when you actually think about it, you're like, oh well, that totally makes sense. But I don't think you would discover that. I think over planning, like, and hey, whatever works for you in writing a book, that works for you, because the only thing that ever matters in writing a book is that you type the end and you get it edited and finished, and then it goes out there.
Yep.
But I would say, I think over planning and creating too much gravitas gives the work so much weight that it can be stifling to you, and it's more fun to just make it up as you go along. But now, okay, so that's a really weird thing that happened.
No, I totally agree. And the thing is that like I can view this from like I used to do heavy outlining, and I've had the same editor for fantasy stuff for a while. Same one that like Terry Brooks has used. So she's been around the block, and she when she when she read through Planeswalker, the most recent one, which admittedly I think I did it in the way you're actually describing. I knew the beginning and end, and that's always the case. But I didn't really outline. I just kind of knew where I was going to start, and I just went from there. And I knew where I needed to get to, and I had a couple key points, and that was about it. And her view of it was my writing before where I heavily outlined was very not predictable, but this one you never knew what was going to happen, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I really didn't.
Yeah. Because it's blockchain. It's blockchain storytelling.
Yeah.
To just be a typical science fiction writer and take whatever hot term is out there and use it and cause Rothman to twitch like quantum. but it is blockchain storytelling. Everything that you're building unlocks the next thing, and that's where I think that ultimately makes writing fun instead of a work assignment. There was an interesting thing with this, because I'm putting a lot of Tolkien in there. I'm using a Tolkien translator to like come up with words and stuff like that. The weirdest thing has begun to happen. Things that I think up or words that I use, I'll go into the Tolkien translator and I'll put them in, and it's weird. Like there's weird coincidences about them. Like when you go into the Tolkien, like I made up the Sar before I went ever into the Tolkien translator. And then when I put Sar into the Tolkien translator, it means foul and abhorrent. And I was like, oh wow, that's really weird. Or like I'll name something and then I'll like sometimes I would like just like, oh, what's a cool looking, like sometimes I'll name things by how cool they look, regardless of what they mean. And then it's weird. It actually means kind of like Tolkien was so brilliant in how he constructed words that in a lot of ways they feel like what you're writing about. And then as I was playing with the Tolkien translator and I was understanding things, then those things began to come into the lore of the story. And I had to explain, well, why is this tower called the Mind in the Land, the Tower of Stars? Like, okay, well, this is what they were doing there. And then I was like, oh, like, okay, so they were kind of seduced by this person. And so I need to come up with a name for him. And he's kicked out of the Dragon Elves, but he comes back with a cult for them and kind of takes over. So he's kicked out, so he's abhorrent. I'm like, okay, what is abhorrent in Tolkien? Well, abhorrent in Tolkien is Sauron. That's what Sauron's name means. It means abhorrent. But then I was like, I can't use Sauron. But like there was part of me, like for like about 1 minute, I was going to use Sauron. And then I found out that Sauron has another version of Sauron that's older than Sauron, and it's Thoron. That's like an actual name for Sauron. I was like, oh, that sounds like a badass cult leader. I'm using him.
Right on.
So it's weird. Like the work is like, because it's meta, it kind of is with Tolkien and stuff like that. It's been fun to play with those. And I would tell anybody who's listening now, like, if you want to like riff on Tolkien and do what we're doing and everything like that, I highly encourage it, because from a marketing standpoint, because there's such a huge Tolkien audience, and there's nothing wrong with doing this. And also because Tolkien's about to become very either hot or people are going to talk about it a lot as Amazon puts their train wreck out there. People are going to want to rediscover Tolkien. And so if you're kind of riffing on Tolkien or doing whatever, I think you could totally tell a fantasy story using everything Tolkien, because the language isn't copyrighted and the words that he made weren't copyrighted. It would be the same thing as Galaxy's Edge, where you're just using the words and the tone for flavor and flair, but you're not actually telling the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what we're doing with Forgotten Ruin. Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I was muted.
Everybody was like, "Yay, go!"
But like, the thing I really like about the series is it takes the time to play with the setting through the eyes of the Rangers who have to experience it. It's not just automatically Kennedy is, he gets a couple of days with Vandahar, and now he's casting magic missile and fireball every 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
The Rangers have to experience this. And like you were saying the other day, there's one of the Rangers where everybody else is like, this change they're kind of fighting it a little bit because it's against their nature. They come from from a society where if you want to be something, you have to work at that something. And some of these guys are just changing it. And then you got that one guy who's like, hey, I'm this now. I'm swole. This is tight. Now let's do this. And like, you get to experience that change through the eyes, and
then the fun is like because there's a D&D aspect to it. Yeah, it's a military thriller and it's about big battles and war and everything like that. But what is D&D? It's like hobo murder. At the end of the day, it's hobo murder. So why wouldn't the Rangers be the biggest hobo murderers ever? Like, before you even get to the main storyline, they're already like hunting things down in the forest and having contests like on what they can kill. And then of course they're trophyizing it. So like, and then there were a couple other like classic D&D encounters that they have in there, but it's kind of fun to reframe those. And it's kind of like the theoretical exercise that Rothman and I did in the game today, where we're like, well, what would happen if you put a cockatrice into a bag of holding? And I was like, you'd create a black hole. And he's like, well, you'd create a small explosion. Like, both are possible. We don't know. Neither of us have got everything. But like, I think when you do exercises like that, or when you do things like Forgotten Ruin, like, you are so much more in tune with what science fiction originally was than the bullshit it is now. And I mean, like, it's super bullshit now, with like, science fiction isn't about fun or deep thinking processes anymore. It's all about navel gazery. But if anybody thinks that's like a recent thing, it's like, for a long time, science fiction has been very little more than a soap opera. But when you go back to like the masters and everything like that, they were literally doing that exercise. Well, what would this be like? And I think ultimately that makes like the most fun science fiction, when you say, well, what would happen if we could put something that turned to stone inside a pocket universe? What would happen? Like, I think that's classic science fiction, and I think that's really missing. And that's kind of like the fun of Forgotten Ruin and these kind of stories is getting involved in theoretical things and doing fun stuff. Like, this is using modern military weapons, and so over the course of planning Forgotten Ruin 3, which is about them killing a dragon, the answer is the Rangers kill a dragon pretty quickly. It's not a big battle. So I wanted to be true to that. I didn't want to like tell like a bullshit another Black Hawk Down story with anything, but I had to like play with the dragon And the truth of the dragon is it's one of the worst dragons because it's a green dragon. The green dragons are the most crafty, the most evil, and here's the big thing that dragon has: they're the most manipulative. So that's the only thing that the dragon has going for it over the rangers is that it's very 4D chess. And so, but if in a straight fight, the rangers are probably going to croak in about 2 minutes.
So once you kill the green dragon, how are you cooking the steaks?
I think you go in for a little belly meat first, and you get the belly meat out. So you got a little pork belly. Let's call it a pork belly, and you're gonna take that. You're gonna reverse sear it, and then you're gonna like probably get it into a cast iron with it's green dragon, so it's gonna taste like it's probably a little lizardy, a little fishy. So if you go for like a fish sauce and a broth with some garlic and noodles and some fresh basil, what do you say, Robin? You're the other gastronom.
It's possible. I guess I was thinking one way or the other on the green dragon thing, whether or not it was poisonous or not. And
yeah, but we're gonna eat it, so for the exercise, it's not poisonous.
Yeah.
So what part of the dragon do you cook, and how do you cook it?
I would say most tender part is going to be just like a cow. It's going to be along the back spine area, right on the sides of the spine is your fillet. You can take some fillet out. That should be nice and tender, and maybe a little hard to access, but if you can get it, you got bacon. You got dragon bacon. Yeah, you can't go wrong with dragon bacon.
It's good eating right there.
Yeah.
So, Walt, in some games that won't be mentioned, you can take the scales of the dragon and make armor with them. Is that something you foresee?
You asking me or asking Nick?
Are you still thinking about Siska? Is that why you're laughing?
I was asking Walt as the DM because he's always riding me about Skyrim.
Oh God,
riding. Oh yeah, okay. Huh.
In D&D, you can make dragon scale armor, and like we could get Andrew in here, and he could give us a whole class on eating the heart. But basically, there was a point I think in AD&D and in the Dragon magazine issues where like monsters suddenly became apothecary shops, and like there was just all kinds of stuff you could do.
So there's a document I picked up. It was either on sale or a freebie on Drive Through RPG, and it's a complete listing of pretty much every creature you can kill and how you cook it and what it tastes like and what it'll do to you. Like,
what did it say about the dragons?
I'm looking that up right now, actually.
I'm figuring the teeth and the talons would be good weapons of one kind or another.
The teeth you're supposed to be able to plant, and you get soldiers.
Here we go.
You get 10th
flavor
level soldiers.
Raw magic. The meat feels heavy, but flakes like fish. You'll never have cavities again. Your breath smells better. Your bald spot vanishes, and your eyesight improves. You feel like the after picture and the 1,000 internet ads look. No, this is a bad idea. If you don't eat the dragon's unique death conditions, you will be sicker and wither within a year and a day from the time of their death, and then its ghost will hunt you and kill you. It's an entertaining little document.
Remember when Trump said he had dragon blood, and like, which some rapper said it too. It was pretty funny.
Was it Charlie Sheen that said he had tiger's blood? That's where that started.
Blood.
He had tiger's blood, but then Trump said he had dragon blood. It's just insane. It was awesome. I missed that.
But yeah, there's killing a creature like that. Nick had said before that this puts the Rangers in the political arena of the area because of the fact that now they've basically made a statement. Like, we wanted to be left alone to kind of like lick our wounds after the last thing. And, Brother Green over here flew in and went all Incredible Hulk on us. Somebody's going to pay for that.
So what'll be interesting to see is what is the hierarchy of the power? Where do Rangers fit in the overall apex predator hierarchy? Like, you would imagine there are liches out there or what have you that may cause Rangers all sorts of grief because the normal attacks may not work. So
So we interviewed a pretty senior ranger for the back matter for Forgotten Ruin 2. So there'd be like what do you think that was? Like a 2-hour interview? Well, an hour and a half interview.
Yeah, between the two sides, yeah.
Yeah. And so rangers have an attitude. And ultimately at the end of the day, it kind of is an attitude that really decides every contest. Everything is pretty much 90% bullshit and then 10% effort. But it was funny because he said it and it was hilarious. But he just said there's a Jedi moment for rangers when you realize you can do anything. And he said most of the rest of the militaries in the world, like when they would work with people and things like that, they don't understand that. They're like, oh, we can't do that. And rangers never operate in we can't do something. It's always how can we do it? And so if a ranger group were to go up against, like you said, a lich, I probably am going to put my money on the rangers because the rangers never ever start their leadership. I'm sure, some of them, or whatever. But the mindset and the culture of the rangers is it's we can't do it. It's always how can we do it? And when you have those and we talk about that in the book, like when you have somebody that's sitting up late at night, thinking about your demise, you're probably not doing that. Like if you ever have an enemy and that enemy doesn't go to sleep at 6 o'clock, but that enemy stays up all night long thinking about you. What do we say in the book? It's probably best that you get religion or move or leave town. Like you don't want that kind of enemy. You want and that's what Caesar was talking about when he looks at Cassius and Julius Caesar, and he says, "Give me fat men who are lazy and like to eat, but don't give me young, lean, hungry men who like." And what he was saying about Cassius is that's the guy who's going to stay up and figure out how to get rid of you, and who gets rid of Caesar? That guy. So the thing about Rangers, because they have that attitude of not like, can we do this, but how can we do it? That's the defining thing that I would probably, you never know. Maybe the list just gets, power word death or what, like if I'm not writing a book and this is a real situation. Yeah. A lich might, or Tiamat or any of those things that could like the Trask. Well, but the one thing that you could count on about the Rangers is they're never going to say it can't be done.
Right.
They're always going to operate. How can it be done?
Right, but I think where that can play well into a book or a story is that the initial engagement may be lacking some key information. So you may get blooded, or some people may end up biting it, and and a retreat has to happen because you realize you don't have the ingredients you need, but round 2 is coming.
But that's really the premise of the first book, because like in the first book, the Rangers show up and they're just like, oh crap, this doesn't look right. And the first thing that happens is because they're a new entity in the area, a horde of orcs comes out of nowhere and just starts swamping these guys. Right. And one of the big problems they have in the first book is they have a guy sent by the government to form relations with local civilizations. And the Rangers are trying to tell this guy, like, look, that's not something you make friends with. Because this is the way friends act on when dealing with foreign relations, that's not it. And it doesn't work for them. But the problem is, they get mollywomped in the beginning of the first book. And because they think, all right, speed, surprise, and violence of action, right? So fine, we'll set up a couple of things and we'll do some damage and guess what? They'll leave us alone because we'll punch the bully in the eye. But they don't understand the dynamics. They don't understand the culture of what they're dealing with and stuff like that. And that's how in the middle of the first book, they start starting to adjust their frame of thinking, because the thing about the culture you're talking about is first and foremost, the thing that everybody, when writing a lot of these cultures, they forget that things like the Rangers are highly specialized. They're highly dedicated to a specific aspect of military culture, because if you specialize in that, you now become the problem solver for that particular set of circumstances. So the things that Rangers do better than anybody is their tactical reconnaissance. That was their primary goal, what they were originally formed for. Guerrilla warfare, that kind of stuff. They're hit and fade kind of guys. So like to sit on an island in the first book and just slog it out with round after round going toward the enemy advance was not in their playbook, and it shows. So like when they start adjusting to the culture, right? They meet with a local asset that identifies herself and says, "Hey, not everything here wants you dead. In fact, a lot of us are glad that you're here." And then you have the wizard that Nick was talking about, Vandahar. He shows up and he's like, this could be a thing for us, and local assets start attaching themselves to the Rangers. And that's where stuff like fighting a lich or lake or however you want to call it. The Rangers aren't just going to sit there and be like, oh shit, he threw down a lightning bolt and killed 4 dudes. Let's go get him back. They are going to tactically reconnoiter the enemy high value target, and they are going to just plot and plan, and it's really their strength is in tactical reconnaissance.
Right. But I think some of the biggest payoff in reading a book is when you have to pay a penalty, and sometimes maybe when you're actually encountering this thing you've never encountered before, lich or otherwise, you don't realize the problem you're running into until it's too late, and now you're learning on the fly, and you run into problems.
And that's through both the first and second book. We have instances of that. There's a guy in the first book, Sims. He learns real quick. You don't just run out and just start shooting at stuff. In the second book, it's the main character's best friend. And these lessons that they're learning is that, a bullet isn't a magic key. It doesn't solve everything. Right. And sometimes there are other assets that have to be drawn on, but that's the thing, in D&D, magic is the replacement for technology.
Right.
So understanding how it fits and how they can adjust and adapt and stuff like that. Like I said, there are really some in book 3. There are some really, really, really great character moments, and one of them involves somebody who had the misfortune of the ruin changing him, but it gives him insight into this other aspect that kind of like, it's another one of those like haunting character moments where you're like, oh wow, and it's a couple of different elements of the book wove together at that point, and you're like, all right, I can see what they're doing. So yeah, it's there's the potential for really getting slammed hard. What's that? If I do that, they'll think it's a werewolf transforming. What's that? Taking off your shirt?
Yeah. Blame me. It's you got distracted by Nick.
No. If anybody gets naked on the stream, we're keeping it. Considering the source, yeah, we're keeping it. So, what do you think? What do you think? You go ahead.
We circle back a little bit to the conversation that Nick and Wilbur Aloysius Kuchenmeyer had. So what do you think happens if you put a cockatrice into a bag of holding?
I guess you'll have to see when what my opinion is on that when you do it.
Man,
you're not going to give us
no,
that's just evil, Nick.
That's what Walt does, and he's rubbing off on
he's
me.
evil.
But it's a dead cockatrice, so yeah.
The greatest tool for like new GMs and stuff like that is your ear holes, right? Because the best thing about sitting around a table and listening to people conspire and like plan and formulate like how they're going to F over the GM, right, is some of the best GM candy ever. because you'll sit there and be like, I bet it's this. I bet he's going to throw this at us. That's what you're doing, isn't it? And you're like, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm totally doing that. You know what I mean?
But sometimes it's not, though. It's like last week before the Rangers arrived, and like, what are you guys doing before? And I think there was a general consensus, like, when those doors open, he's going to just, rape us with undead. So we need to be prepared that nothing happened. It was just dead bodies falling. Oh, well, shit. Wasted a lot of time.
But yeah, so I mean but that's the other side of that too. In military culture, you might plan for something that never happens.
That's true.
So like I can't tell you the amount of times like we've sat in a fixed position waiting for something, and it didn't happen. My favorite story of all time for when that happened was we get a call from a local village, and they're saying there's a bomb sticking straight out of the hill, and we're like, that's not really how that works, bro. So we get out there, and like literally straight out of a Looney Tunes cartoon, there's like an Acme bomb sticking out of a hill, and I'm like, that's probably a 500-pound bomb. We need to stay a little bit back from this. So, we pull our vehicles back and stuff like that. And we call in EOD. Now, EOD in our area was supported by the SEALs. So, we're waiting for the cool guys to show up and show us,
they're just going to take a sniper round to it or something from
right?
a mile away.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is going to suck. So I'm sitting up in the turret because I like to be up top where I can see everything. And I'm like, hey, do me a favor, hand me the radio. So I grab the radio and I'm like, hey, this is so-and-so. Everybody move back another 300 meters. And they're like, so my boss calls up and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, we're sitting on more ordnance. It's buried all throughout where we're parked. So everybody freaks out. We take out of there. SEALs finally show up. It's like 4.5 hours of us sitting there. Right. And the first thing the dude comes running up and he's like, hey, you guys got shovels? I'm like, whoa. Why are you hitting the bombs? So like the guy sits there and he's like, well, we gotta expose them and we don't have Pioneer kits. You mind if we borrow our shovels? I'm like, yeah, just let us move back a little further. So, we're watching this and like literally, I mean, it looked like, straight out of Looney Tunes, this bomb sticking out of a hill. So, but the thing that the EOD has is they have an ordnance registry. They can look these things up. So, the big heads of state get together and they're like, all right, here's the deal. So back in Desert Storm, they had a plane that was supposed to do a bombing run when they diverted it for a recon mission. In order to have the fuel and range to do the reconnaissance, they dumped all their ammo. It was buried over by a sandstorm and left, and that was the last we heard of it until now. And we're like, it was 16, 17 years ago. And they're like, yeah, we know. So
it gets less stable over time.
Yeah.
So someone could fart on this thing and it'd be.
And I'm like, you got that mother trucker over there with the t-shirt on and like no armor or anything. He's kicking the bomb. Can you please ask him to stop kicking the bomb? So like they got all the explosives together as much as they could, and then they packed it with as much C4. But they told us right out, we don't think we brought enough.
Just blow in place. Shoot it with the 50.
But like it was one of those things where we were protecting it because it was exposed ordnance, and anybody from the other side could have come along and said, yeah, we're going to take this and use it against you at some point, but nobody ever came. The EOD guys came out and destroyed it all. And that explosion was epic. Oh my God. Was there a lot of booming, but like, seriously, I mean, we planned all day around protecting this element to keep the village safe and blah, blah, blah. And nothing ever happened. I mean, they came out, they detonated it, and we all went home and, had tacos.
The thing I think was fun about writing Forgotten Ruin 3, like with talking about like planning and having a plan for things, is the thing like what Walt and I were discussing in the planning of it is like I think where this book is a little different is like a lot of military thriller books are like, okay, this bad thing is happening. We've got to, be tip of the spear, and we've got to run out and do this thing now. And there's always that, like, it's very like I think fiction writers fall into that trap of creating a sense of urgency about everything, and that's not really what happens in real life. And so, especially so with the Rangers. So what they do is they go out for what are called pumps, and when they're not on those pumps, they're training for everything they're going to do on those pumps and training for specific missions. So in the book, the dragon attacks, and then the Rangers make up their mind to go kill it. And what they don't do is take off willy-nilly to go get it right now. What they do is they spend 6 weeks developing plans and contingencies for everything that the dragon will do. So then when we get into the battle, like as chaotic and as frenetic as it gets, the Rangers can still claim to have everything under control because they have actually a plan for everything. Even the unexpected happens. And they're like, nope, we've got a plan for that too. Now we go to that. And it's like basically they're a football team that are running a series of plays against the enemy. And the enemy is being completely reactive, even though it's a really rough enemy. And so that's like what we were talking about initially about plans and the different mindset Walt was talking about with Rangers. One of the things Rangers do in that they're not like regular troops on a day-to-day basis are very reactive. You're going to go do this thing now over here. And they're like, okay, we're going to go apply all our infantry or skill set, MOS skill set, like those SEALs. When they got up that morning, they didn't think they were going to get an EOD request. But lo and behold, they got an EOD request. And so they go out and do that. Rangers are a little different because a lot of their missions are very specific. We are going to psychologically profile this bad guy, and then we're going to make glass houses, and then we're going to do run-throughs, and we're going to create a cordon zone, and we're going to do all these things so that we make sure we get him in one go. And so with Rangers, it's more like a mob hit or like a mob, like the mob robbing like a big heist. They're more like that than what they have been in the first two books, which is very reactive. Now they're kind of doing their thing. And that's more of the tip of the spear military units, SF, Rangers, Orange Group, things like that. They're the people that they don't just get sent out to do EOD missions. They do things that people are saying like, hey, this thing needs to happen, and then they get together and they think up things that they want to do about that.
Yeah, that's the typical like penchant for writing that very reactive unit. Is very much a product of like action movies and stuff like that.
Yeah. And we have to remember, like, you can't rain on people's parades. Like that's entertainment. Like, you really don't want to read about Rangers going to the gym for 6 weeks. And you don't want to. And then we did the 30-second run through the glass house, and we fucked this up, and blah blah blah, and then it's like let's go to Star Trek and let's go to like Starfleet battles. Like there was a great quote in there. Like I remember they were saying like to create what it would be like to be a starship captain. They were saying like it's 6 years of patrol and 30 seconds of hell. Like that's it's more like that. But that's no fun to read. So we've got to make everything Michael Bay. So I think you can still do both. And I didn't know that was possible. And I'm not like waving our own flag, but I think that's executed in book 3. It gives you a little bit more realistic of what it takes when a tip of the spear military unit decides to go croak somebody, and then what that 2 minutes would be like.
And I got to tell you, the assets they keep picking up are just awesome.
Freak Squad.
Oh my God, Freak Squad is great. The Lost Boys are great, and like their mentor, who they decide is like the guy that they attach themselves to. The freaking dwarves, I love them.
Great. Like Nicole read it, and she's like, I really like the dwarves.
They're so good.
Yeah.
So when do the Strange Company join the ruin?
Maybe they're already there.
Yeah, maybe they're already there.
Maybe
That would be-
maybe everything is Prometheus's fever dream. Jason's like, no, like flash the Jason dad face right now.
Oh my god! So, there it is. Yep, here it is.
There you go. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of fun, and I look forward to the other Wargate books coming out. And I actually had a long conversation with Doc Spears this morning, and he was telling me all about his Warlord of Mars series, which is going to be Wargate, which is going to be an operational detachment alpha team that goes to John Carter's Mars.
Oh, that's awesome!
The fun that they get into.
I am gonna love that. Oh my god, I can't wait.
I have so much stuff to read in the next few months.
Oh, I love it. We don't even really watch TV anymore because there's so many good books that are so much better than what's coming out on TV.
Books and podcasting are what it's all about.
Yeah.
Speaking of books, Walt.
Yes,
Walt. Thing about a mongrel or something.
You're killing me. This is supposed to be Forgotten Ruin.
No, it's all.
I don't want to ruin it and forget.
We can talk about the mongrel.
You guys.
And JR, you have your erotic thriller. What was it called?
A Weekend at
Levin at the Red Roof with. What was that?
They'll get you kicked off the Twitch for that.
Yeah.
Only if you use copyrighted
give us
music.
One detail, JR.
If you want to come over and talk about it on my Substack.
Substack.
Did she use essential oils or sensuous oils?
Or essential sensual oils.
Lunch was good.
Lunch was good. Is that what the kids call it these days?
Phrasing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Walt. Mongrel star.
Oh goodness. Well, hold on. Let me get.
How did you come up with this idea?
So, we do a lot of my other thing, Hazard Studio. We do a lot of play testing of different games and stuff like that. And they had this game that came out that was, in fact, you played it a little bit, Nick. It was called White Star.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it.
And so we did some play testing. We were going to develop a setting for it, but we didn't want Star Wars. We wanted something a little more gritty. And at the time, Killjoys had just came out, and the first season was all like bounty hunters, and we were like, but it was like a whole society of them where it made sense for their for like the setting. So we're like, all right, well, let's do that. Kind of, but let's put our own spin on it. So like all the game supplements took place in like the core worlds, and it's very corporate. The governments are kind of puppets. The corporations actually rule everything, but some people just didn't want that life. They wanted the freedom and said F the security, and they left for the outer boundary where the frontier is, and that's where the story kind of takes place, and it's about a kid that his mentor is murdered during a tribal negotiation. And he knows he can't get to the bottom of this himself. So what he does is he basically stages like a big war crime in order to draw in the largest like military force in the area to deal with this. And it goes horribly wrong in the beginning. But he starts making allies, and then the whole idea was basically like the Clone Wars meets John Wick.
Nice.
So
and you even got a dog in book 1.
Sort of.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like Mimosa.
Oh God, yeah, that was a thing early on, which scared the crap out of me. Because they're like, "What does the character look like?" I said, "Well, he's not 100% human. He's a, and hence the name of the first book. He's half human, but the part of the race that he's blended with, they're huge, right? So the natural like state of them are anywhere between 8.5 to 9 feet tall. So because he's half human, he's like topping it at like 7 feet. So I said, he should look like a big Jason Momoa. And when they turned in the original art, it was like Jason Momoa's face in there. I'm like, dude, I'm going to get sued. So the artist was really cool and went back and redid the face. So yeah, that was
I don't
absolutely
think you
fun.
can get sued over the face. Can you?
It was
You
You just
might.
didn't want to take the chance.
yeah. I mean, better to have the book sell on the merit of the work rather than. Did you read that book where Jason Momoa is on the cover, but it's not Jason Momoa? So yeah, it came out a lot of fun. We got the 3 books in the can, and then Stephen Rhett over at Athon Books, they took a look at the first 50 pages, and they were like, "Yeah, we think we could do something with this." So originally, I was going to put them out myself under my own label, but life just, I started working ridiculous amounts of hours, and I didn't think I'd be able to market it properly myself. Because
you're done with all 3?
Oh yeah, they're already in the can. They're ready to go. So
what's the release schedule?
June 15th for the first one, and audio releases the same day.
What about book 2, 3?
Book 2. Hold on, I have the technology. I can make this work.
Should be rapid release. If you
it's pretty quick.
Well, that's
a good
how
read
you
so
do it.
far.
Where am I?
I hope you bury Galaxy's Edge. Not Forgotten Realms, but Galaxy's Edge.
Nick is so over Galaxy's Edge now. Just like whatever.
I mean, I like Tyrus Rex is my jam.
Oh, he's
the main series is it's complex. Like there's a lot to do in that, and sometimes that's kind of a vibe kill for me because I'm like, but like. Tyrus Rex, man, I could write 57 Tyrus Rex novels.
I hope you write 57 Tyrus Rex novels.
I do too.
Make it 58.
I would like to take it. I'm thinking about doing something crazy next year. So we'll see what I do there. And then I'd like to take a year and just write Tyrus Rex novels. And then what I would like is a pocket universe where I can be gone for 6 months and show, but just pop back in, here's 10 books. Then, just back to the pocket universe, and that'd be great.
They call that Costa Rica.
Oh man,
the thing I love about Tyrus is the guy's been alive for 1,500 years. There is so many stories you could tell, so many stories in the Savage Wars, let alone his bounty hunting career. And in the last book, the last Contracts and Terminations, where he gets Balder.
Yeah.
Oh,
the Dog Jedi.
The Dog Jedi.
That was
so freaking cool.
That was such a funny conversation. Hey, tell me about your dog. I'm like, okay.
That's a nice dog you got there. No, Nicole.
I'm gonna steal his image.
No, Nicole says she's like everything goes in the book. Like when we'll be somewhere and someone will say something, I'm like, that's going in the book. Because she's like, I mean, how many books have I written? I've written almost over 30 books.
Yeah,
I'm just a vampire. I'm just if you hang out with me, I'm probably just ripping off everything you say and putting it in the book.
So there's a burning question. JR asked it of Jason tonight, and Jason had.
JR has a burning question after last week.
They make creams for that.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
Siska gave a little more than what she initially offered.
Things are chafing.
Yeah, but
penicillin now, JR, before your nose falls off.
I mean, it was a burning question on the behalf of me and my group of idiots. He wanted to know when we would be seeing crack chickens in Galaxy's Edge or Forgotten Realms. And he's like, what the hell's a crack chicken? And
yeah, chickens are dangerous.
You know what?
Especially when they turn people to stone.
You know what? I got to send him that clip too to get him filled in. Or Naylin needs to come on and tell the pure story of the crack chicken because it's amazing.
We have a chicken shack in Newport Beach called the Crack Shack, and their chicken fry is not that good. Because I'm an Okie and a Texan. There's a certain way I like chicken fried, and they don't do it that way. And a lot of people lately are frying chicken that way. It's just very here's a crust of chicken on it. I'm like, that's not how you do it.
I hate you, Rothman.
I can only fight so many battles, and right now I'm fighting the government, so I have to let the chicken battle go.
Well,
But they do schmaltz fries, which schmaltz seems like a Jewish word because it is, right, Rob?
It is.
And it means chicken fat.
Yeah.
And if you've ever had fries fried in chicken fat, don't pass that up because they are really good. And that's like what I like going there for.
There's a lot of flavor in there.
but
It's so good. And then they have spicy ketchup, and you're like, ah. And then you're like, why am I eating these by the handful? What's wrong with me? I'm a monster.
but in a nutshell, one of her patients, she's a paramedic in Flint.
Right.
One of her patients told her about the secret family recipe for fried chicken, and it had crack in it.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And it's kind of become a running joke. And somebody on the GD Discord actually made us a logo for Kill Team Crack Chicken. And when I ordered this on the business label, I put in Kill Team Crack Chicken, knowing Jason and his kids would have to look at it and go, "What the hell?"
Oh, poor Jason's kid.
That's what nice. Like
Those innocent little beauties. There you are, scarring them for life with stories of the outside world.
Speaking of those kids,
they're not allowed to leave the compound.
So it's come up that unless you guys go and review.
Wait, wasn't that what Siska said last weekend?
It's come up.
You never should have gone, JR. You never should have gone. We'll never let you live that down. If you die tonight, we will show up around your grave and we will yell these jokes down into the earth.
I'm just facing his headstone.
Yeah, and a couple weeks ago to tell us he's pregnant.
Oh, that would be awesome. That's usually the pro move. Like when your marriage ends and you're kind of like you're getting your first taste of freedom. And you forget that girls can get pregnant, and so they go right out and get pregnant. And you're all, oh shit! I'm already not doing well with the other family, and I just started to do. I've known more guys that have done that. They're like, free, like, and I just had a Ritz cracker. It was the greatest Ritz cracker. Oh, you're pregnant? What? What? That can happen? Yep, it sure can.
Oh my god!
Shit. I mean,
now here's the question.
You're prime beef, JR. Girls are gonna want you to impregnate them because
the JR master race.
You have things to offer.
That BAH, is that what it is?
Your degree in history. Don't put that down.
Ooh, history.
Now here's the question, right? The in book 2, there's talk of the Rangers getting all close and personal with a bunch, the elf women. They're half elves in the making. Like, is that what we're looking at?
I think so. Like, I mean, we keep everything family friendly, and we like that because, if they bleep out all of Chris's, dialogue from the after action, it's still a family friendly. But no, I think without putting too fine a point on that, they're gonna want to score, and them elf ladies, they're sad, so
life will find a way.
Life will find a way, but then they're gonna have elf dependents.
Oh, I can't wait for those memes.
Oh my god, elf pandas.
But where they're headed in book 4, they're headed to the Atlantean Rift, which is Atlantis. And so there'll be some weird chicks there, and then Talker kind of almost scored with the Medusa.
That was that scene.
I'm sure she gave him a hard time.
Does Rothman want to talk about the science involved in that?
Scoring with the Medusa?
Yes, the interspecies breeding.
Well, first
got the right paper memorized.
Your little tadpole enters the egg. Egg implants into the menstrual wall. Yeah.
Oh my god!
You can't say those words on Twitch. We're banned.
Oh yeah,
that'd be funny though.
If we're gonna get banned, we just need one with Mick in the hot tub, just so he can tweak them on the way out.
If they keep, the funny thing about social media is if they just keep finding new things to be offended about, in about 5 years, the only thing you'll be able to say on all of social media is belly button. That's it. And if you deviate in any way, banned. You're like, no,
Yeah.
what? Yeah. So that, like, I mean, it's all a circular firing squad now. But the greatest thing is once you're dead, you don't have to play anymore. And what you find with the people like who get very offended about everything and have to have everybody banned is like, it's so much fun. It's like crack that you can't just stop because you got rid of the people you hated. You have to find new people to hate. So like the intersectionality that's coming where they start banning each other now that
It's
like,
beautiful.
I mean, I got canceled a long time ago. And like when I was at HarperCollins, and people have tried to come and cancel me a couple times, but like, as Jason pointed out, you really can't cancel me. Like if I shot a baby, I guess you could cancel me, and I'm not going to say anything ridiculous, but like, what can you do to me? Like, I'm kind of like, I've been canceled. I got kicked out of HarperCollins. I still sell books. There's really nothing you can do to me. But so I'm off the table. But like if you go over to like the romance genre or YA and watch all
Those people are
SJ
crazy.
and they go after each other and they're like, oh, you shouldn't be writing about this, and like, but I'm on your side and I was defending you, and they're like, no, you're the worst person ever, you're Hitler. And you're like, but we were friends last week, like, no, it's just like, and that's why popcorn was invented.
It is very strange though how certain genres do pick up the crazy people, and it's not a bad or a good thing about the genre. It's just some of the fans, are just, for whatever reason, romance seems to have picked it up. I mean, fantasy, not as much sci-fi, but certainly the fantasy world. And
I love women, and this is not a disparaging comment about women.
Yeah,
but they're crazy, and they will tell you that they are crazy. So anything that women are involved in, there is going to be drama. And any woman that told you that that's not true is lying to you, because real women will admit to you that women around women, there's going to be drama. Well, there's not a lot of women in Space Marine. Like Space Marine was the coolest group of people ever. It was like Richard Fox, Jasper Scott, Daniel Aronson, a bunch of them. And like when Jason and I threw our hat in the ring, they were all like, oh yeah, hey, great, yeah, we'll plug your book, we love you, like everybody just worked together and it was cool. There was zero drama. But man, you go over to lit RPG or paranormal or romance or whatever, and I mean, like, it's just knives out for Harambe.
Too soon.
Too soon. But a lot of that too soon. No, it's never too soon. But a lot of that is women and men with women-like tendencies like drama. That makes them men aren't like if you talk like I went to Archer's with Rothman, and like I remember like there was Josh Dazella and Ken Lozito were there, and they're like just two regular solid guys who talk about like fast cars. That's it. There's no drama. They don't care. Like, well, look at what she's wearing. Look at what they're wearing. Oh, look at that. They're just into cars. That's it. And that's how guys generally are. Guys are very low drama. But when you have women in there, they're high drama. And that's what. See, I'm not. People might think I'm disparaging that. I'm not. So that's what makes them wonderful creatures. Life would be
an absolute fact. I mean, even today, my wife called me from work. She's a school teacher amongst a bunch of women. Whatever. And she was hysterical. I'm like, okay, this is just weird. And by the time she gets home, she's fine. I'm like,
you're all, man, this is
whatever.
And you hung up on her.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's what makes them wonderful and caring. And you have civilization because of women. Because if you didn't have women, men would just be walking around in the mud killing stuff, and they'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
But women want walls, and they want buildings, and they want dinner at 5:30. And so that's why you have civilization. And civilization is wonderful. And we have that because of women, and I'm very grateful for that. But when I look at like writers groups or things like that and women get involved, I love them, but you're going to have drama. So you have to be very careful. And I've just decided I'm not a very careful person, so I shouldn't be around women. I just have the one woman, and she seems to like me for no reason whatsoever. So
she's a very nice woman.
I found one. I don't need any more in my life. We're all full up with crazy here. Go sell crazy somewhere else. Where did you learn to speak English? In some kind of Panamanian hump sailor bar?
Good old Jack.
Jack. Oh my God, that's where we should totally cut it, because you can't get better than Jack.
No.
But thanks for everybody for coming out. Once again, we were AARing our D&D, and of course, usually the AAR takes 20 minutes, and then for the rest of the time,
Random crap.
we're pouring our crazy all over the internet. But we just want to say thanks to everybody showing up. Thanks for the subscription, Naylin. We really appreciate it. Helps us keep it going, and we'll catch you next time on D&D After
Sister
Dark.
said to JR last week. Keep it going.
And